Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and something that we've always known about current day Hollywood and entertainment in general is these current writers are being hired not because they have any like for the source material, but in often situations specifically because they have no attachment to the source material. We've kind of always known that, but things are getting worse and more disconnected from the source material to such a degree that they aren't even comparable products. And my response to stuff like that is make original stuff. If you're not going to adapt the original source material of whatever project you're working on with any sort of integrity, make original stuff. If your story doesn't resemble the original story, just make your own story. I don't know why that's so complicated for modern day Hollywood to comprehend, but it looks like we have some insider information on one of these new franchises who has never really publicly come out and talked about this divergence between source material, fans, and the current writers, and that is Marvel. And it's something that we've definitely seen in Marvel Phase 4, especially, but even in previous phases, that these writers specifically have no interest, no love for the source material, and I think that is immediate disqualification. Any writer who's adapting a universe should at least have a love for it. If not like an encyclopedia knowledge of it, at least a love for it to enough an extent that they can tell what the important things to keep are. Because otherwise, if you're just an outsider looking in, you're just like, oh, the cool thing about Thor is he has a hammer. No, there's a character in there that people love, or something like that. You need to know what the valuable parts of a source material is to make a good adaptation. Otherwise, you won't know how to weigh things properly in value of what to adapt first and what to keep and what to get rid of. But we have this article here from Bounding in Comments, who are great. I love those guys. Met several of them myself, who have this article that says Marvel Studios producer considers it a red flag if prospective writers are fans of the original comics. It's not that they're just hiring talented writers and if they're fans or not, whatever. They specifically consider it a red flag if they care about the source material. That's a red flag for the producers, because if you're specifically looking for people who have no interest, no love, no prehistory with the comic books or the source material that you're adapting, you're going to have a terrible adaptation process, and fans are not going to enjoy what you give before them. They're going to reject it soundly, and we've seen that on so many different occasions, but it's the fact that they consider it a red flag to like the source material. That makes me, as a creative, as a fan, so incredibly angry, because that is a fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to be part of a fandom, what it means to be a competent storyteller within a given universe. It's a red flag. I just can't get over the term that he used. It's a red flag to like the source material. It's probably because someone who doesn't care about the source material will just roll over and let Kevin Feige or whoever's in charge tell them what to do and bastardize the source material in whatever way the studio wants them to. If they were fans, they might actually put up a fight, and that's not what they're interested in. They're interested in directors and writers who say, yes, sir, yes, that's what I'll do, yes, 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 and have no actual spine or opinion for themselves. And I can see why having a fan in that position is not what they're looking for, but this is a red flag for Marvel, current day Marvel, because this is the perspective that they're taking it from. Prefers to hire someone who's out of the culture. You can't adapt source material for a culture in a new medium without having an understanding of what that culture is and what that culture values. This is an insane perspective, and this 100% explains Marvel's Phase 4. When you combine this with their woke ideologies, Phase 4 makes so much sense that it's very sad to see, honestly. But there's some actual comments that I want to read here from these people. So this person is asking the Marvel producer, saying, hey, is there some kind of Marvel boot camp or something that you do to these filmmakers to integrate them into the world and knowing all the things that they need to know? And that at least is a middle ground. It's like, hey, we hired the best writer for the job. If the writer doesn't know the universe in depth enough, we at least try to give them all the tools necessary to love that universe, to adapt it in a way that the fans will love. He's at least trying to find a middle ground. The producer comes back with, not really. So you don't even educate your writers, these writers who don't know anything about the source material. So it's not just, hey, we don't want people who know the source material. We're not going to force the writers to understand the source material even after getting the job. This is just getting more profoundly stupid from a creative perspective. Every word out of this producer's mouth doubles down the stupidity of this perspective that Marvel is currently taking. It may have always taken, but it's really evident in Phase 4 that this is definitely the approach they're taking. One thing I think is interesting, and specifically for writers, I would say, is a lot of time we're pitched writers who love Marvel, and to me, that's always a red flag. So, for example, the Daredevil writers, came up with the idea themselves and pitched it to Marvel and Netflix. Luckily, Netflix was involved enough that they made that, but those guys actually love Daredevil, and that's why the first 2 seasons at least of Daredevil are some of the greatest superhero content ever made, because fans loved it and came up with the idea themselves. So it's like, oh yeah, we love Marvel and we're really talented, let's make this story. Oh, no, sorry, you said you love Marvel. That's a red flag. Let's get this guy who says he actively hates Marvel. That's a better perspective. Yeah, totally. I don't really want you to have a pre-existing idea of what it is, because you grew up with the comics and that's what you want to recreate. Recreation in comics is a little bit different than like a book adaptation per se, but yes, you want to have a pre-existing idea of what it should be, so you know what to keep, the internal integrity of the story. What is valuable? What is the most important thing? Is it the costume? Is it the character's personality traits? What is it that the fans know and love that defines this character the most? You need to be a pre-existing fan to understand that and adapt that properly. But this guy goes on to justify it, saying, "Oh, Ragnarok made a lot of money, and it didn't know anything about." Taika Waititi doesn't know anything about the source material. Yes, you're going to have one-offs that are, fun in and of themselves, but they're still not good adaptations, and that is a quality to be compared against in and of itself. But this perspective is always going to cause issues, just like it did for The Witcher's writer's room. A few years ago, we heard that Lauren Histridge was specifically not seeking out people who were Sapkowski scholars, and going in, it's like, she specifically says, I'm looking for people who don't know the source material. Basically the same thing, not using red flag, because red flag is really extreme perspective, but she's basically taking it from the same perspective as these Marvel writers do. And do you know what the end result of that is? The end result is people actively disliking the books and the games in the writer's room, which is a problem, which is a red flag for fans, for the studio. This is the result of that type of mentality, and in the end, people who are actually fans, like Henry Cavill, leave these productions as soon as they possibly can, because they see this is the problem, and fans do the same thing as well. With diminishing returns on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, whether or not they're making the same amount of money, for example, the Black Panther 2 audience numbers, pure numbers, not box office numbers, but audience numbers, is down 40% when compared to the first one. Inflation and the increase of ticket prices makes up for that other 40%, so that it's only making a little bit less money than the original did, but 40% less audience is coming to see Phase 4 than it did Phase 3, and that is a problem for Marvel, whether or not their bottom line is affected. So people are responding in Marvel, people are responding in The Witcher, Star Wars, Andor's getting siphoned out to everyone else because they're doing the same thing. All these main studios are specifically hiring people who aren't fans, and that creates a problem. That creates stories within these universes that aren't coherent, that don't connect to anything else, and don't have that fundamental aspect of it, which makes it Star Wars, which makes it Witcher, and that is the love of a fan or the original creator. That love is what makes a good adaptation. At the end of the day, love for the source material is what makes the best adaptations, and as long as Hollywood and these other studios are coming at it from this perspective where they're actively avoiding people who care about the source material, they will continue to lose, they will continue to diminish in audience retention numbers, and they will eventually go away and disappear entirely until they decide, hey, maybe we should let fans make stuff for fans. It's not that complicated. If you don't like the source material, make your own stuff. That's what I've done. I've made my own book series because I didn't like how Greek mythology was getting adapted in modern day, so I made my own story. It's not that hard if you have any sort of creative integrity, but that is something that is averse to modern day Hollywood entirely. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon.
Hey, yo, are you feeling what I'm doing up in here? Oh, I know you are. Do you miss all the good, compelling stories that we used to get back in Hollywood that they ain't putting down no more? I know you missing it. So check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern day mental illness issues, baby. Book 1, Down in Flames. Book 2, Apocalypse Then. These are currently on sale. What are you waiting for? Get your hands on them. And we got Book 3, Kill the Dark, is coming down the pipeline. Just wait for all the good stuff that's dropping. You ain't gonna be disappointed, fam.